The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 Thursday night matchup in Cincinnati with the Bengals on 7 p.m. Tonight. In a matchup that features Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Jamar Chase. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup in Cincinnati against the Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup against the reigning Super Bowl. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champions on Thursday night, 7 p.m. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Thursday night football matchup in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champs Cincinnati, who have come in at 1-2, a little bit disappointing on the season, and in a matchup that features Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to tell you guys why the Dolphins' defense is going to be the key to victory in this one. Now, I understand that they played 92 snaps on Sunday against the Bills, but this Cincinnati Bengals offense, particularly their offensive line, is something that can be exploited. So far, the Bengals this season, they've allowed the fifth most pressures at 38, tied for the most sacks in the league at 15. They've got the fifth lowest time to throw at 2.2 seconds in the pocket. They've faced the ninth least blitzes. So teams are coming in, they're rushing forward, they're getting to Joe Burrow, and they're tied for second with most quarterback hits at 17. The Dolphins defense in week 3, now, granted, they did face Josh Allen, so it's a tougher task to actually take down the quarterback. They managed 4 sacks, 5 hurries, 4 hits. They pressured him on 17.8% of his dropbacks, which is a little bit more impressive when you consider that he did drop back to pass 63 times in that game. And then on top of that, I'm looking at this Bengals rushing offense, and I'm not sold on it. The Bengals this year, they've got the third lowest yards per attempt in the league at 3.3 yards per carry. They've lost 5 fumbles. The Dolphins' defense at this point, specifically against running backs, because Lamar Jackson and obviously Josh Allen give a little bit of a different challenge than Joe Burrow would. So I just wanted to keep the Dolphins' rush defense versus running backs. They've allowed 46 carries for 168 yards, averaging at 3.65 yards per carry, 56 yards per game. So the Dolphins' defense against the run has been stout against running backs this year, which is something that I'm looking forward to seeing against Joe Mixon, who's averaged a paltry 2.8 yards per carry thus far. Joe Mixon, one of the AFC's premier feature backs, is one that I don't expect him to. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday night. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champions. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup. The Miami Dolphins kick off their Week 3 matchup tonight in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals, in a matchup that features Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I can expect a defensive slugfest in this game, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I think the Dolphins defense will shut down this Bengals offense, and the Dolphins will improve to 4-0. Just a few things to note here. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, they went ahead and they added guys to the line. They thought they had fixed it. So far this year, they've been one of the league's worst units. They've allowed the 5th most pressures at 38. They're tied for the most sacks allowed at 15. They've given Joe Burrow the 5th lowest time to throw at 2.2 seconds in the pocket. They've faced the ninth least blitzes, which means that teams are sending 4 and they're getting to them. And they've allowed the second most quarterback hits at 17. So that Bengals offensive line is looking a little bit leaky. And I know that the Dolphins pass rush this year has been much maligned, but I'd like to take a look deeper at week 3 against Josh Allen and the Bills. The Dolphins got 4 sacks, 5 hurries, 4 hits against Josh Allen. Josh Allen, obviously, a little bit more mobile in the pocket than Joe Burrow. So if Burrow can't get away from the Dolphins' pass rushers, Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, Melvin Ingram, Trey Flowers, even Jalen Phillips, the Dolphins should have an easier time getting to Joe Burrow and getting him down in this one. And then on top of that, the Bengals' rush offense this year, despite featuring one of the AFC's top feature backs in Joe Mixon, has rushed for just 3.3 yards per attempt, third lowest in the league, and they fumbled 5 times. So that's something to look towards in this game. The Dolphins' defense this year, on paper against the run, hasn't been great, but when you take away the fact that they faced Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and you just look at the running backs they faced this year, they've allowed 46 carries for 168 yards, 3.65 yards per carry, 56 yards per game. They've been very good against running backs as units, specifically on the ground. Now, granted, they haven't faced a great stable of running backs yet, certainly not one the caliber of Joe Mixon, but it's still something to look forward to. So the Dolphins in this one, I think they'll get to Joe Burrow early and often. I think they will shut down Joe Mixon on the run, and I think the Dolphins cruise to this one 24-13 in a defensive slugfest.